Binge the full week ad-free over at patreon.com/inspireddisorder.
What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.
This is my top 5 TV series of 2020. Starting off with my number 5 pick. Now, this is not just TV shows. This could be limited series, documentary series, etc., etc. Short format, let's say. The barrier between TV and movie and all that kind of stuff is blurred, but you get what I'm saying. TV shows, TV series. So starting off with my top 5 is Upload. It's a original series on Amazon Prime by the creators of Parks and Recreation with a kind of a sci-fi feel, which is kind of interesting considering Parks and Rec ended with a bit of a sci-fi feel. Kind of cheesy, a little bit more tonally like The Good Place, I would say. Like if The Good Place and like Black Mirror was kind of like more like sitcom-y. But the idea is capitalism or a capitalistic afterlife. You have the ability to upload your being to a virtual reality server to live perpetually in this kind of afterlife. But of course, with all things in capitalism, those with money live a different reality than those without. And despite some cheesiness, despite some of the cheesy acting and performances, it was a show that really grew on me. It ended. I believe there's going to be a second season. I don't know when that's going to start being filmed or not with the whole pandemic going on, but I believe I read that there was going to be a second season. But it ends great. It ends with kind of a cliffhanger. But it was a show that I enjoyed. I've actually watched through it a couple times, and it's a very interesting reality. Very similar in some ways to The Good Place, where it's kind of high concept afterlife kind of a thing. But yeah, Upload, my number 5 pick for 2020. My number 4 pick technically came out in 2019. It was a YouTube original series that later went to Amazon Prime. But that show, my number 4 pick, top 5 TV series of 2020 is Wayne, a show that I first heard of from Doug Benson, who is the host of Doug Loves Movies and Wide World of Doug's. He had some actors and creators of Wayne on his show, and later I checked it out, and it is amazing. It is a character who had to deal with a lot of things, but avenges those that he cares about and seeks revenge on the people that hurt the people he loves. And it is like a teen road trip / revenge show. He's headed from Massachusetts down to Florida to reclaim his dad's muscle car that was stolen from him by his ex. And it is his journey, Wayne's journey down to Florida with his new friend, which I'm blanking on her name at the moment, but an amazing show, great writing, very original. I mean, you're getting like kind of the like raw grittiness that you would get from the poor people in Massachusetts. Not that all the people in Massachusetts are poor, but you get it. Like he comes from a troubled family life, and so does his cohort. But it is a really fun movie. Kind of has shades of like John Wick to it, but he's a teenager. I really enjoyed it. One of my favorite. Obviously, it's my number 4 pick for 2020. My number 3 pick is a limited series. I don't think there is or would be a second season of it, but it was a show that had me in tears, literally in tears through the end of it. And that is my number 3 pick for my top 5 2020 TV series is Hollywood, a Netflix original show, limited series, featuring people just after World War II, I believe, just after World War II Hollywood, but in alternate reality, let's say. It's loosely based on what happened in Hollywood, or what was happening in Hollywood at the time. It follows multiple characters, some of which are part of a kind of a gigolo kind of setup through a gas station, where the owner of the gas station is kind of the pimp, and all the young studs of the time, uh, people would come up and they would say the magic word, and they would be able to have sex with these dudes that worked at this gas station. But it also showed like the politics that went into Hollywood at the time. But it really was the thing that changed it, that made it like kind of what Tarantino does in a lot of his most recent movies, where it alters the reality. It's basically like, what if the marginalized and minorities of the time had found success within the system of Hollywood? And that, just an amazing show, amazingly written. I loved all the characters. It had drama. There's love stories. There's just like the pain of trying to get a movie made, and how that can change over time. Just I loved every bit of it. Hollywood was just a great series. It has a lot of sex in it. If you're into naked people having sex, obviously there's a lot of that. But the story and the heart of the show was, I mean, it just blew me away. And really truly had me in tears towards I don't know if it was the last episode. There's an episode that's at the Academy Awards, and yeah, it was like I was crying, because it's artists realizing a dream, basically realizing a dream in a reality that never existed, and it was beautiful. So that's my number 3 pick for 2020 is Hollywood. My number 2 pick, my top 5 TV series of 2020. My number 2 pick is The Last Dance. It is the documentary series featuring Michael Jordan, featuring the Bulls and their amazing 2-time three-peat run of championships. It was a time in my life. I mean, it's a documentary that focused on something that I was extremely passionate about when that was going on in the 90s. I was a huge basketball fan. Obviously, Michael Jordan was the top of the top at the time, a huge Bulls fan. And it's interesting to see the behind the scenes of everything that happened, and how much of a battle there was between Michael Jordan and the owners of the team, and how, despite Michael Jordan kind of quitting on top, I mean, later he went back and played for the Wizards, but I mean, as far as that Bulls run, like, it could have lasted longer. Like, if not for the management of the Bulls, that second three-peat when he came back with Pippen and Rodman, could have been an even longer, could have really set the standard for what a dynasty could be. And also, it was interesting to see the evolution of the NBA from when Jordan started to where he was, and how physical it got, and how the athletes in the NBA really kind of changed how they prepare and how they trained for things, and seeing how Michael Jordan, why he's so the best. You have to be a very specific type of person to be as dominant as he was. And despite him being, looked at negatively by a lot of people, it was clear that it may not be the only way to be a dominant NBA star, but for him, it made complete sense that he even at times had to manufacture uh, hills to climb, even though when he was at the top. But I loved it so much. The Last Dance, it was an amazing watch. That was also on Netflix. But my number 1 series of 2020 out of all 5, my number 1, a show that I've rewatched multiple times, is Dave, a Hulu show. I mean, it's on at FX, I think, as well, but I watched it on Hulu. It's a show that features Little Dicky on his rise to fame, written by Little Dicky himself, also starring Andrew Santino, who is a hilarious comedian. One of the funniest shows on TV, a story that shows just kind of what it's like for a rapper or an artist to kind of try and gain traction in the current reality that we're living in. But one of the most hilarious shows. Like the end of every episode is like the best punchline ever. And it's just like I loved all the characters. Little Dicky, obviously. It's almost like similar in some ways to Entourage, where you're seeing the rise of a star, but it's handled in a much more realistic way, a much more authentic way. And I enjoy it so much. I literally every week when the new episode was being released, I would rewatch all of the previous episodes leading up to it. So I've literally watched every episode multiple times. There's a relationship in this movie with Little Dicky and his girlfriend that comes to a head, and it like so point and so like something that I personally relate to in past relationships. But it's an amazing show. It's easily my number one show of 2020, and it's something that I highly recommend everybody check out on Hulu. But that is my top 5 TV series of 2020. Let's break it down one more time. Starting with number 5 is Upload on Amazon Prime. Number 4 is Wayne, also on Amazon Prime. Number 3 is Hollywood on Netflix. Number 2, The Last Dance on Netflix. And number 1, an FX show that I watched on Hulu, Dave. Those are my top 5 TV series of 2020. Let me know what your top 5 are in the comments. I want to know what you enjoyed this year, and maybe I will check them out. Make sure you support our sponsor, the official coffee purveyor of the Ray Taylor Show. That is right, people. Head on over to stationhousecoffee.com and follow Station House Coffee on Instagram. That is where you can get yourself some small batch, single origin, premium coffee brewed in Thetford Center, Vermont, and shipped directly to you. Let them know that I sent you to stationhousecoffee.com and follow Station House Coffee on Instagram. New episodes of The Ray Taylor Show come out every single day. Subscribe on IGTV, YouTube, and everywhere else podcasts are found. Binge the full week ad-free over at patreon.com/Inspired Disorder. Buy Ray Taylor Show merch over at inspireddisorder.com. Follow the show on Instagram at Ray Taylor Show. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out!